Today, the turn-based strategy genre or tactical RPG is one of the most known genres of games for more hardcore and even casual gamers. Games from XCOM 2, Mario Rabbids to the Disgaea series, just to name a few, as well as many other smaller, less known titles, the genre has a lot to choose from. In 2005, Nippon Ichi Software, who brought us the Disgaea series, would release a hidden gem that would garner great reviews and praise from fans of a series on the PlayStation 2, but to this day is almost completely forgotten by modern media and standards. My name is Cool Kid Croc, and today I'm going to break down the cycle and bring you a review/retrospective for Makai Kingdom, Chronicles of a Sacred Tome. I will be going over the campaign or main game and reviewing how the game plays, the story, as well as sound and other factors. This is a video to show off the game and hopefully get people interested in it, and there will be spoilers. Now, I played this game when I was young, probably 5 to 8, and about 3 years ago, but the game's story wasn't too much remembered for me, so I needed to play the game again. So join me as I start a new game in one of my favorite childhood games that I couldn't wait to replay after some time. So I hope you all enjoy my analysis, review, and mostly retrospective on the tactical RPG game that I love and everyone ignored. Welcome to Makai Kingdom, Chronicles of a Sacred Tome retrospective for the PlayStation 2. Starting a new game will bring us to the first cutscene of the game, where we meet the main character, Overlord Zeta. The game starts with him on a rampage in a place called the Forbidden Library. We learn that he needs to find something called the Sacred Tome, or else a prophecy said his netherworld would die. This is when Zeta is stopped by a thunder demon named Raiden.
I am called Raiden. As per my master's orders, I am here to destroy you.
So, let me guess. You're the reason my netherworld is supposed to be destroyed. I'm a freaking overlord, you idiot! The strongest one in the entire cosmos!
This then starts the first battle of the game, a tutorial for first playthroughs. Now, as I go along with the retrospective, I'll be explaining more and more mechanics as we go through the story, so I'll try to make it easy for someone who's new to these types of games to understand. Each battle is done on a top-down field of view where characters move in a free movement circular area. Each character has movement which affects this and determines how far they can move. Different attacks also have different area of effects, so character placement in this game is quite important. Your character can then do a list of things like attack, lift an item, lift a building or character, and proceed to throw what they picked up if you please to do so. Then there's a status bar to show stats, abilities, and all that good stuff. When you place an order like an attack, it is queued. You can stack up multiple attacks to get a combo going to do more damage as the combo goes on. You can execute the turn and makes all attacks that you place go through, or end turn, which first executes whatever attacks haven't been done yet and then proceeds to end your turn. Then the enemies all move, queue attacks, throw shit, then they execute and end their turn, and it goes back to you. Hopefully that explains it well enough for now. The game's tutorial does a pretty good job and guides you somewhat, but leaves a lot to learn and find out, but I'll get to that later. The tutorial though is of course easy and very hard to lose, and after defeating Raiden we get another cutscene.
I've seen that fighting style somewhere before. I'm one badass freaking overlord!
So Zeta is quite full of himself, and he likes to boast about himself as a badass freaking overlord throughout the game, and we'll learn this quite a bit about him. Now, he implies that he knows the fighting style Raiden used, meaning that one of his enemies that he must have fought previously sent Raiden. Once reading the Sacred Tome, he reads that Lord Zeta is stupid, his foolishness has doomed the Neverworld to extinction. Now, this is a pretty joke of a line, but it has a lot of meaning in the story. He gets pissed at the book and proceeds to burn it with magic before making the best joke known in demon history.
What is this? Sacred Tome? Ha! More like sucky, dumb thing.
This then causes everything around him to burn and start to fucking crumble, which means the tomb is linked to the Neverworld somehow. He then has to confine his soul inside of a book in order to save everything. Leaving his body, his soul enters the book and we get another narrative.
Lord Zeta avoided destruction by trapping his soul in the Sacred Tome. Man, that guy's harder to kill than a cockroach.
We can then see Zeta in a book form floating through space. He lost everything, and while he waits for the white-haired girl to arrive, some girl with green hair walks by.
Hey, hold on a second.
She then tricks him into having a reason to leave. Zeta then senses great mana power, to which the girl Zeta called for help earlier arrives. Her name is Pram, and she's an oracle who can see into the future. She also brings a friend with her, Dark Lord Valvoga, a demon made up of 3 demons. We start to learn there are a lot of different overlords of many different nether.
There's more than one world in the universe, so of course, there are many netherworlds.
Zeta needs overlords to aid him, as they can write wishes in him with their mana power to create netherworlds and places of such. When he asks Pram for a new netherworld, she does grant him a hub world, but not without messing with him a bit and only giving him a doghouse on a huge lot instead of a castle. I mean, it's not much, but our hub world is a magical place. I love hub worlds, but later on in the video I will go over the hub world and what I think about it and everything you can do in it, because there's actually quite a bit. To start, you have to hover over an item and create a character. The first character you create will be the one you can control in the hub, but you can change characters at any time by asking Zeta and selecting to do so. I picked the pickpocket class and then proceeded to make more characters. You begin with a pretty basic list of fighter, male and female, mages or wizards, a healer, as well as a shop trader and pickpocket. Each class has different users, so fighters are good for combat and fighting, mages use magic, healers can heal good, pickpockets steal items good, but it gets more complex as some classes offer a good use, like the shop trader you have getting better items in the shop as they level up. Once done creating characters, talking to Zeta will drop a shop facility into the world hub, where you can then buy items. You can also buy items from your trader, but the shop sells it for a little bit cheaper. There's a lot of cool weapons you can use in this game, from nunchucks to katanas to a UFO that can steal items and has a damaging move called Probe. There's a lot of variety, and I love the amount of choices you have in weapon diversity. Each character is good at 4 different weapon classes. You can have quite a diverse squad ranging from different units to units with different weapons, as well as armors and stat buff items. But now we can begin the first stage of the game. Each chapter usually has about 5 to 10 different stages or maps to clear. The first map is a tutorial and it will explain how the game works. Unlike most RPGs where you would have to kill all enemy units on the map to clear it, each enemy unit and items like rocks and weeds will have a point value. Each map has a certain point value you need to clear it, and you need to defeat the characters or items with the most points that add up to clear it. You can clear maps very fast this way, and makes for another level of thinking for what to do when trying to strategize on what enemy to go for. You can always continue the map once you reach the points if you want the extra XP or to kill the enemies, but this feature is pretty great for a second playthrough, or if you feel that your team is kinda overpowered as it is. The only change in gameplay compared to the tutorial is that we must invite characters or facilities to the map. Using Zeta the book, we have a maximum of 8 characters on the map at once, so naturally you'll want to level up or have a team of about 8. You can solo character these games just fine, but I played the game how I wanted to for this playthrough, just leveling up whatever classes I wanted, trying to keep a semi-balanced team. The map isn't hard to clear though, and we get a hospital from Zeta, where we can heal our characters' health points and special points, the attribute that we use for special attacks. After this map, we get a cutscene with Pram and Valvoga. Throughout the game, we get many nice cutscenes like this, deflecting the overlords and conflicts they might have with one another. Valvoga is 1/3 wimp and 2/3 evil, with a part controlling him being the wimp. After this though, we move on to the next maps, and it's worth saying here that the maps are semi-random, as in most maps have different placements of enemies or extensions of land. While some maps do pretty much stay the same when you replay them, a lot of the maps are a bit different each time, so it does create more reasons to play again. By the 4th map or near the end of chapter 1, I could create a few new classes and started to form a team already. Although I will say money is very hard to come by in early game, barely having much money to revive my troops after battle. So it makes it hard to get new weak recruits some gear, but I still found it pretty fun and manageable. After clearing the last map of the first chapter, we get another cutscene where Zeta laughs.
Great work, everyone. To be honest, I was worried. Power or not, I can't fight in this form. But that's all worked out now. I'll just have you fight my battles for me.
As he can just use us to fight. Pram also watches him and reveals to us that she can't see into the future anymore. Most likely to her not being able to read the Sacred Tome, with Zeta being in it. We can save after the end of every chapter, which begins a new cutscene to begin the new chapter. Zeta is mad due to there being enemies on the Netherworlds that are being created, but Pram tells him it's normal, and that's sort of a reason why we're clearing the maps, which makes it a lot more fun in my opinion. Each stage is us like claiming a portion of a Netherworld for Zeta. We then meet a new character, Overlord Babylon, a very old dragon who is probably one of my favorite characters in the game. He greets everyone by saying he just ran through a couple planets on his way because his eyesight is poor, along with falling asleep after. He wakes up though, and we can ask him to make Zeta a Netherworld by writing a wish in a book.
Ah, I see. But I don't want any questions about how I can write without hands. None of your damn business.
Just a great character in my opinion, and I wish I did see him more in other Nippon Ichi Software titles. But moving on, we begin the first map on the next chapter, and this is where we meet Alex, Zeta's arch nemesis.
This punk is Alexander, god of destruction, also known as Alejandro, Asshat, or Alex. He comes off like a know-it-all brat, but he is actually an overlord. But even after 20,846 assassins and 6,413 meaningless wars, he still hasn't taken me down.
He's tried thousands of times to kill Zeta before, but he continues throughout the story as a constant spike in Zeta's foot. But he doesn't even fight us himself. He uses his minions to fight us after calling Zeta a bitch for being a book. What a dick.
You idiot! Who's the overlord now, bitch? If your mana power's so great, why can't you get up, huh? Forget it, I don't need to prove anything. Even these guys could waste you at this point.
The rest of the chapter is mostly just clearing maps, which isn't bad. I'll be getting into the gameplay part and other aspects of the game after the story, but not too much other than Zeta gaining another Netherworld.
6 Netherworlds till I'm back in my hellhole.
The next chapter lights up things by having green hair girls set Zeta on fire. We also meet this guy, an overlord named Seedle. He's kind of a dick as well, but he's here to help us, so I guess he's on our side. Zeta also tells them no one is to hurt the girl, which makes him seem kinda soft for an overlord, but will be explained later in the story. Then a new dungeon gets made and we continue clearing maps. In this point of the game, things start to get a bit hard. Enemies start to become more fearsome, and just building defense is countered by mages who might one-shot your characters due to elemental weakness and a resistance stat, being the defense stat when going against magic. This makes prioritizing who needs to be upgraded next a must when deciding who gets a new sword or armor. This chapter also has enemies utilizing buildings like facilities, and have a little bit more enemies if not cleared in time. My favorite use of this is in 3-3. In this map you have 2 chest guys and then 2 platforms that can really only be reached by throwing an ally. In order to move on, you must clear one side and defeat the Steel Titan unit. You can kill both, but only one is needed to pass the map. Now Steel Titans already have a very high D, and at this early in the game, my units barely did any damage to him due to him popping out of a facility. The facility in question gives him a 40% boost to defense, making him very hard and maybe unbeatable for some people at this point in the game. Now, the way to work around this, other than smashing your head against the wall or grinding, is I figured since the Steel Titan has a very low movement range, I could try and space my characters out to prevent him from being able to attack anyone. The move that made me feel insanely smart and like this game should have been much bigger than it was and is I sent one of my units to the facility he jumped out of and jumped into it myself. This causes the 40 defense bonus to cancel out on the Steel Titan and become active on my unit that I placed in the facility. The reason why this is so great is because it shows how the facility system can be used to create unique and good strategy gameplay. Throughout the game, this is reoccurring sometimes, and it's one of my favorite parts of the game. I can see an enemy I think I have no chance of beating at my level, but with proper strategies, a lot can actually be done to use the game systems as they were provided to you to create a victory that should have definitely been a loss. The stage after this stage is the one where it expects you to put your units in the enemy facility, as the enemies never leave the building. The building is also level 120. Most of your units at this point are around level 8 to 12, so there's no way you can beat the building. Instead, placing your characters into the building and hit execute, this will begin a fight, which system doesn't always make sense, as I don't believe it goes by who has the higher stats for who will win. I think it takes into account the level of a character, because coming back into this stage late game, if you have top tier equipment and thousands in your stats and put a unit in the building that is level 1 or just reincarnated, even though he still has really good stats, there will be no way enemies could do any damage to him, they'll still beat your character. Either way, this stage is good for early game leveling as it's fast, easy, gives good money, and it never changes too much, so I used it quite a lot for grinding, like your mama. The last map has a unit in a vehicle, and this is where we start seeing vehicles a lot more in the game. They serve almost as another character, so if you invite one with a character in it, it counts as 2 characters. Once the vehicle is destroyed, the character pops out. There are lots of different vehicles in the game too, which I'll go over later, but beating chapter 3 leads to a cutscene where Zeta sees Alex, who just runs off and drops a note behind him. Upon reading the note, it says, "Stupid Lord Zeta survived. Just like a cockroach, he simply refuses to die." This leads Zeta to come to the conclusion that it must have been Alex who rewrote the Sacred Tome, as well as probably sending Raiden to try and stop him, which wouldn't be surprising, as Alex has tried thousands of times to assassinate Zeta. But Zeta still questions if it was him, as the note sounds like someone else he knows. But we end chapter 3, save, and start chapter 4. Start of chapter 4 starts with Overlord Scabbard and Zeta telling them about the note he had found, which leads them all to believe that it had to be Alex.
Something wrong? What's on your mind? Or your page?
Looks like Alex is behind everything. The loss of the Netherworld, my body.
Stupid Lord Zeta. That sounds like something he'd say.
Do you really think one piece of paper proves Alex is at fault?
It makes sense. Alexander, god of destruction, could certainly do all that.
Graham really agrees with this and has lots to say and question. Then a light begins to appear and we are introduced to a new overlord, King Drake III. He instantly shows he might have a bigger ego than even Zeta has. And Zeta's narration for describing him is in an annoyed tone.
I'm sure you heard what he said, so there's not much to add. Oh, he's a moron.
He's a douchebag, and even though no one really wants him hanging out, they can't turn down more help, so now we have King Drake to choose to make a dungeon with. What's better though is that we now have access to the Professor and Engineer class, both classes related to vehicles, and we get this as we got a vehicle from a bonus in chapter 3's final map. These are great, and you can even hop in them and travel at fucking lightning speeds around the hub world. They also serve a great use in combat, but I didn't end up using them throughout my playthrough. It's definitely something you can or cannot decide to use, but I felt it would probably make the game a little bit too easy for me compared to having no vehicles. But moving forward, we first get a cutscene between Pram and King Drake where she expresses her thinking that King Drake is up to no good or planning something, but he insists he isn't. We then see Zeta meet face to book with Raiden, the guy who tried to stop Zeta at the beginning of the game. course though, we don't fight him right away, and before Zeta can get any answers out of him, he flees, and we are left to fight our way through runts until we can face Raiden. This chapter doesn't add too much, but Zeta does explain to us that we can use something called reincarnation to make your character stronger. What this does is it resets their level while inheriting skills and some attribute points, along with allowing you to add more and more points to a stat as you go on. This will increase the number value of a stat that would increase with each level. So if you have a level 20 character, reincarnate him, the next time he's level 20 he'll have more stats probably because of the stat bonuses he got. This is a core feature in the Disgaea games, but is done a bit differently in this game. You can create characters and star items, which when created will give them bonus stats, as well as level being in factor as well. You can also reincarnate by making them summon a facility, and to get the character back, all you need to do is go to an item and create a character where you can put that character's soul into that item. If you keep repeating the process, you can have some really strong characters, and it's a must do for post-game content if you want to get through it without grinding stupid amounts of levels. But for me, I only reincarnated a few times, and re-leveling a character can be quite a task early game. One of those maps in chapter 4 is worth mentioning as well, as the one before the boss offers somewhat of a puzzle. While it's not really hard, it might trick some people. So there are 2 enemies on this map, no extension. Both enemies hold enough points to clear the map, but the trick is the closest enemy to you is level 205, while the farthest one is 21. Well, level 200 is impossible without insane grinding at this point, so you want to throw some characters over the level 200 and go after the weak one, of course. A neat map and stages like this do offer a lot of value, as I think they break up the times where clearing maps might feel repetitive or just a stat game, not a strategy game. Moving on though, the last map begins with Zeta meeting up with Raiden as well as Alex. This is where we learn something important for the story. Alex has no clue what the Sacred Tome even is, and he only sent Raiden to kill Zeta. At this point, there isn't really a reason to not believe him. Alex's only goal really seems to be defeat Zeta so he can probably say he's the most badass overlord or something. But rewriting a book, to do that most likely wouldn't be something a character that Alex would be able to think of doing, let alone do. Before Zeta can find out more though, Alex vanishes, leaving us to fight Raiden. This is a pretty good mid-boss fight, I believe. It's about halfway through the game, and I actually lost my first time going against him, due to me prioritizing the units and vehicles and the other ones, as I thought I should have, even though they gave no points, and defeating Raiden is the only way to really clear the map. This meant I really only did 20 or 30 minutes of grinding though, which isn't too bad, and I felt like my weaker units were useful again. Anyways, now using my stronger team and some actual strategy, I was able to take out Raiden quite easily this time. After this, we get a cutscene with Zeta, which confirms our beliefs that Alex has no reason to lie. This then leads to the green-haired girl watching TV, supposedly Zeta and what he's doing. When Pram the Oracle comes and starts prying her on who she is, with a very strange response, Pram's just left to be pissed off because she can't kill the girl. The start of chapter 5 shows all of the overlords that we met so far gathered around Zeta, when suddenly a blonde woman with pointy ears appears, to which we learn her name is Salome, and her and Zeta have somewhat of a history together. This is when Seidel sarcastically greets her and shows that there is tension between Seidel and Salome. We aren't sure why they dislike each other yet, but Seidel points out the fact that he knows everything, and he knows that Salome is ill with a sickness that is draining her mana power. This causes everyone to feel bad for her, which actually triggers her and leads to her unleashing an attack on Mickey's netherworld. Pram joins in, which seems to only almost start another conflict, but Zeta would speak up and control the situation. This ends the cutscene and we can begin Chapter 5's maps. Chapter 5 is a bit harder with more uses of vehicles and facilities by the enemy, but it's still scaled pretty well. Beating the first map has Salome come and talk to Zeta about the past, in which we learn more about how their relationship was.
Why the cold shoulder? It's been so long since we were together.
Don't be selfish. You're the one who left me.
You neglected me. Was a second of your time so much to ask? I cared so much for you. But all you cared about was becoming stronger, so
Of course I wanted to be more powerful. I'm an overlord. I don't see what the problem was.
Don't you love me, Zeta?
Don't you ever get all mushy on me again. Your wimpy girl talk is starting to drain my power.
But before I die, I'd like to hear him say it. Just once.
The scene is very important as it tells us Salome said she loves Zeta and seems to be upset that he cares more about getting stronger than her. We're left with a sentence that has us foreshadowing what Salome's final wish could be. We move on though, and after clearing the map, we get a scene where the green hair girl, whose name is Trenia, and I'm calling her that now as I don't know if I missed when she says her name or not. Either way, Trenia is just planting a corn seed and doesn't mean much right now. Just reminds us that amongst all the commotion and drama with overlords, there's a girl wandering space planting corn. It's pretty funny in all reality. This chapter is mostly the same as previous chapters for map design, and there's not too much to go into. Most of the maps are kill the enemies, items, or facilities to get points then clear. After clearing a few more maps, we see King Drake appear in front of Zeta while he is sleeping. King Drake plans to write inside the Sacred Tome to give him the Netherworld, but of course, his wish is denied. This is when Zeta wakes up and Trenia comes in to say something about the Sacred Tome.
Wrong! The Sacred Tome isn't just some magic, omnipotent book that grants wishes. The tome has a personality, and if it doesn't accept a wish, then the wish will be erased. Maybe I should rephrase that. Lord Zeta has to accept the wish before it can become truth.
That's ludicrous! I never heard anything about these stupid rules!
Pram then appears and is pretty shocked by Trinia's knowledge of the Sacred Tome and how she could know the rules of it. King Drake then leaves after being called out by Pram, and Salome appears to offer her help, well as think about her last wish that she keeps on hyping up. This now starts chapter 6. We create a new netherworld with no new overlords, so if you have been creating netherworlds in order of which overlord you met, then Pram should be the option that still hasn't been picked yet, but at least lets you play a chapter through every single overlord's netherworld. While not too much different than each other, it's nice to have some variation or say on what I want the netherworld to be like. Do I want more monsters so I can beat them and try to create some of my own, or do I want many enemies for more experience gains? Do I want low amount of enemies so I can get through the chapter as fast as possible? This is all a part of a freedom of choice Makai Kingdom offers the player, along with character classes, weapons, vehicles, and much more. But moving on, the first map has Zeta encounter Alex in a cutscene, and the other overlords all watch Zeta through the TV. Zeta and Salome get into another standoff, while Pram wonders how Alex could know where Zeta would be if they had just created that netherworld. This is when Trenia confesses she had been telling Alex information of Zeta's plan. Everyone questions Trenia, and she seems to have no clue about the problems she had been causing by doing this. But she does tell them she can see into the future because she's psychic. She then just fucking skips off and leaves Pram shocked, as it always seems Trenia is just like a step ahead of Pram throughout the story. And now that they learned that she's also basically an oracle or can see into the future, it of course frustrates Pram a lot. We then see Trenia go to the corn she planted early in the story and use some fucking magic mic fingers to make it grow. We then begin the battle with Zeta and Alex, while not actually fighting Alex of course, but fighting his runts and monsters. Story at this point is starting to get really good, and we're about 2/3 through it. I will say though, this is when the game begins to get much harder, with enemies actually being a real threat to most of my party. I even reincarnated around here a few times to get my swordmaster stronger. Stage 3, 4, or the one with facility was my favorite early game and late game stage to grind levels on. You can get through it pretty fast and doesn't require too much input wise or time with animations when compared to other maps. I did level up my whole party for part though and got better gear, as the final battle of this chapter has you going against Raiden. This time he's a bit stronger. He also has a lot of units surrounding him, which makes the map very difficult for most players. That is though, unless you're the cool kid Croc I can figure out that putting your fighters into a facility and then getting a character to throw the facility could mean I could have everyone attack Raiden on turn 1, and at most it would take 2 turns to clear. None of other enemies offer points, so beating them is really only needed if you want the XP. I used my 420 IQ though, and I got through the map very quickly, with probably only an hour to a half hour grinding done at this point. With the map cleared though, we get a cutscene in which Alex is about to fight Zeta in his book form, right before a cat who is most likely the one seen with Trenia runs to Alex and tells him something. He then leaves, and Zeta questions what would make him leave in such a hurry during a fight. This ends chapter 6 and we move on to chapter 7, where everyone is gathered and the space seems to be shaking. After which, Babylon comes to warn the group about the One.
The One is coming! I know the One's power. I've seen it. I've felt it. I was still young then. Back then, I had so much mana power that I could have taken all of you on. I was invincible, and everyone knew it. Then, the One came and placed a curse on me. They say that once cursed by the One, an overlord has only 3 days to live.
3 days? You're ancient.
It took almost every drop of mana power I had to counteract the curse.
He also explains how the One cursed him and made him weaker, to which afterwards, he falls asleep in classic Babylon style. The other overlords share their thoughts when all of a sudden Alex appears, but not to hurt, but to help, as he thinks he should help Zeta until the One goes away. This could probably be due to the fact that Alex wants to beat Zeta and can't let the One get to him first, but either way we have a new overlord to create dungeons with, and we begin chapter 7. The first map begins with Zeta being in a debate with a corn.
This is our field! Who the hell are you? You've gotta be kidding! I'm the freaking overlord! I own this whole netherworld! I'm sure the One is watching me, so I should avoid fighting when at all possible. Well, I didn't vote for you. I certainly wouldn't put no book into office. Wait, I can explain that part. Screw it.
After being monkey in the middle by Corn and Carrot Man, he gives in and decides to fight. This chapter has mostly vegetable-themed enemies and is probably one of my favorite chapters. The way the story is very tense with the possibility of the One arriving, and this corny conflict is going on with Zeta. It's great and fits the pacing of the game very well and stands out to me. The next cutscene of the game shows the overlords asking Babylon what the One is like, but he can't seem to remember due to his poor memory. Trenia comes in though and claims she's friends with the One, which at this point I thought could be possible, as she seems to always have fucking weird ass tricks up her sleeves. We also see Zeta facing off against more Corn, and it's great as you can just tell he's slowly losing his sanity as this chapter progresses. The only thing worth noting for map design in the maps are this one stage where it's like a soccer field with carrots against apples. This one I actually remembered well from my previous playthroughs and felt real nostalgia for, to be honest. It's also a pretty decent stage for leveling. I used it for leveling when I needed a few extra levels. The last stage of this chapter is pretty hard too. There's vehicles and there's facilities that spawn new vegetable based units every turn, but I do end up clearing it, and this starts a new cutscene with Zeta and Corn.
Now we see the violence inherent to the system! I will not stand for my brothers being oppressed! See what happens to rebels? Get ready to be shocked! You'll pay for this, you will! I won't stand for your blatantly anti-vegetable policies! I The mighty overlord Zeta! Do not fear Korn, kettle or otherwise!
After Zeta overrules Korn, this is when it cuts to the other overlords questioning Trenia about what the One looks like, as she said she was friends with him. This is when she describes him, and someone of his appearance does appear, but he's of Korn class. This is of course right on cue when Zeta comes back and see there's a fucking Korn man in his space.
Aha! It's that damn Korn again! You'll taste great wrapped in tin foil over the grill. Time to die! How'd you like that, Korn face? Toasted in the blink of an eye! Huh? What's wrong?
This causes everyone to be shocked, and Zeta just confused as he has no idea he actually just killed the One. Babylon also books it, which makes the chapter end on a very well done humorous, even though it was kind of corny, but more importantly a surprising twist, and leads perfectly into the next chapter, which is chapter 8. The next chapter starts with everyone explaining to Zeta what he did and that they were in disbelief that the Korn man was the One. But Babylon confirms it was him, and suddenly the One talks.
I won't forget this, you bastard! Damn you! Damn you to, well, not hell, but somewhere really, really bad. You'll pay for this! You'll never escape my terrible curse!
After being cursed by, well, the now dead One, King Drake of course uses it to try and gain the Neverworld.
Here, I'll repeat what he said, verbatim, in case you missed it. I, Korn, am definitely the One! I shall curse Zeta for eternity, because he is a terrible person! Those cursed by me shall die within 3 days of receiving my phone call! You cannot run from my fury! Prepare yourself, Overlord! By my salt and butter, you are now cursed or damned. Alakonzam! Abwiskablui! Never fear, I can ask the One to remove his fearful curse. He and I have been bros for a while. We used to chill in school together, believe it or not.
It doesn't work, but it's pretty funny and one of my favorite cutscenes in the game. After Salome says she'd give her life to Zeta, Drake knows his plan won't work and he books it. Zeta says he can probably live through the curse if Babylon got through it. The first map of this chapter begins with Zeta against Alex. Again, but this time we're actually gonna fight him. After we fight some monsters, of course. For fuck's sakes, I will say it's kind of annoying, but it'll be worth it. I'll go more in on it later, but after beating Alex's cock blocks, we get another cutscene at the start of the next map, where Pram is thinking about the situation. This is when Trenia then accuses Pram of rewriting the Sacred Tome, and Pram makes it obvious this was her. This was foreshadowed throughout the entire game by Pram's behavior and the way she would approach a lot of situations. Zeta then hypes this up before battle and continuing to clear maps. It's on the 7th map where we finally face off against Alex, and this is when Salome comes to aid Zeta. In this battle, Salome is level 1200 and Alex is level 1000. So for first playthrough, this battle is unbeatable on your own. But Salome makes it basically a guaranteed victory, but you can beat Alex on your own in a different way later, which I'll get to. Either way though, we watch as Salome beats Alex down for us and we clear the map. After the battle, Alex flees and Salome is left bleeding. It begins an important cutscene to end the chapter.
You shouldn't be fighting in that state! Are you trying to die?
I don't have that long anyway. You're the strongest overlord, Zeta. Since I left, you've gained so much power. Tell me how it felt to become the strongest in the universe.
Why does it matter?
Just tell me, please. How did it feel?
It felt great. I've never felt so proud and elated as I did then.
I'm glad to hear that. Zeta, do you love me?
Not that crap again. You're so weak because you let emotions cloud your judgment.
I knew you wouldn't answer me. Can you do me a favor?
What is it?
Will you marry me, Zeta?
This cutscene sends waves through your veins and shows just how serious these games can get randomly, and shows that Salome is nearing death, and Zeta can't even say he loves her, but she still asks him to marry her. Very confusing, but more will be brought up later, as this next one is the last chapter. Chapter 9, let's get right into it. Zeta dismissed Salome's proposal and tried to diminish her in his mind so he could pretend to not care while he obviously does.
She's no longer my apprentice or an overlord. She must die in obscurity as a worthless human being.
He then appears, but not in his body. While he has all the Neverworlds created, and he should have his body back, for some reason he doesn't. This is when Zeta realizes everyone is missing as well, and the only person left is Trenia. Salome then appears, and she seems to stop giving a fuck as she smashes her netherworld into Zeta's. She then tells him meet her there to get married and die together, and if he doesn't go, she'll just destroy his netherworld unless he kills her. So Zeta has like no choice other than to go. Upon entering the first map, we get a cutscene where Zeta says he feels no mana energy on Salome's netherworld, and it could probably be the reason why she's dying. We then need to clear 9 maps until we get to the final map, so we start doing so. There's a short cutscene after the second map where Pram just gets back from her netherworld, but it wasn't attacked, being set there by Salome probably as a distraction. After clearing the 4th map is where we get a really important cutscene in which Seedle stops Zeta to tell him he's going to kill Salome and why. So this is a bit dark, so be warned.
How can you possibly hate Salome that much?
Do you really want to know? That bitch took my life. I was once a famous samurai. I traveled with many people who admired me. Salome was one of them. She was always gentle and kind, but she wouldn't submit to my desires. And she stabbed me to death. Can you imagine the shame of a samurai killed by a pathetic woman?
You probably deserved it.
Maybe so, but I'll never forgive her. I wanted her, Zeta, and I was willing to take her by force.
You bastard.
She was burned to death for murdering an honored samurai, but that wasn't enough. I won't be avenged until I tear her apart with my own hands!
You pathetic bastard!
So after confessing this, it explains why they had all the tension, and instantly proves why Seedle is a dirtbag and just straight up evil. Before he can do anything though, Alex calls him out and he begins fighting Seedle to allow Zeta to move on and get towards Salome. The next 4 maps don't really do too much else new or worth noting, but they are all challenging and great before boss battles. The 9th map is a great level and you can level up really fast on this one, which I'll get to later. But finally onto the final map. We get a cutscene with Salome in a wedding gown, surrounded by blood.
I've been waiting for you, my love. I'm sure our blood-soaked wedding will be absolutely perfect.
I'll never choose death.
You'll just have to kill me.
With that, we must fight Salome, and at this point, she's level 85. Not as high as level 1200, but when compared to my level 60s and 50s, it was quite a bit. She also has a lot of other units with her, so it made this map pretty challenging, and I had to back out and do a bit of grinding until I felt I was able to stand a chance on the map. Using the 9th map, you can align a tornado slash to kill 5 enemies if you line it up just right. Then get 2 characters to take out the other 2 besides him. and sometimes you'll need to kill one of the guys at the top because of points, but they're all level 60 to 85, and it makes a great spot to get fast levels and manas at this point of the game. After doing this for about an hour, I was able to challenge Salome, and using 420 IQ plays, was able to defeat her. After defeating her, we get a cutscene with Salome weakened and defeated.
When I found out I was dying, it frightened me. It wasn't death that I feared. I was afraid I would die without telling you. I wanted to die in the arms of my beloved. My wish was to die in your embrace.
All this time, you just wanted me to kill you?
Yes, that was my wish.
That's screwed up.
I know, it sounds crazy, but I can't pretend I didn't want that. That's just how much I love you. Tell me, Zeta, do you love me? I knew you wouldn't answer me. Zeta, I see it. I can see your body, manly and strong, just like always. Fight the curse, my love. Please, live on for me. I love you, Zeta. I always will. This is the last thing that I can do for you.
Salome. What's going on? I can feel so much mana power. This is the same feeling as when I became the strongest overlord.
After this, we move on to Zeta looking upset with Salome's death, but now more powerful. Zeta pleads to Pram for help to bring Salome back to life, which is pretty touching as he's a very fuck everything, I'm the best type of guy the entire game. Pram thinks to herself and wonders why Zeta is like this, but because of guilt for getting him into this whole mess, wants to help him and offers a solution. When she tries to revive Salome, the Sacred Tome denies her wish, which sets her off and makes her go fucking Super Saiyan mode in order for the wish to work. But not before Seedle, boo, fucks everything up. This is when he tells Zeta that Salome had been giving Zeta her own mana power in order to make him stronger the entire time. This would lead to her getting sick. Alex comes to save us from Seedle once again, and Zeta is only left with Trenny.
So, is this how it ends? I'm just a stupid book that used to be a fake overlord that a dead human woman created.
This sucks. I thought I'd be free, but I'm still stuck here. I'm the spirit of the Sacred Tome. I was in there before you confined yourself to the book. When your soul entered the Sacred Tome, my soul was pushed out. To be honest, I didn't really like you. All you cared about was your position as the strongest overlord. I wanted to see what would happen if you lost it all.
Little bitch.
But I think you've changed. I actually kind of like you now.
Who cares?
Please consider this my apology. Zeta, I'm going to return my soul to the Sacred Tome. Confine!
Trenia confesses that this entire time she is the Sacred Tome, and her spirit was pushed out of it. Zeta put his spirit into the book at the start of the game. Trenia basically came out. So Trenia confines herself back into the book, and the game takes us to a castle where Zeta is in his normal body again, and Trenia is in the Sacred Tome. Trenia offers Zeta a wish, and knowing what he is going to wish for, will of course accept it, reviving Salome. This then rolls the credits, but the cutscene isn't done yet. After the credits, we see Zeta with Pram, Alex, and Salome, but it's a few days later, and Zeta questions how he's still alive. This leads to a joke, but it shows us who the actual one is.
Will the real the one please stand up? It's a secret to everybody. Mickey and Dryzen don't even know.
And that's the end of the game. We can continue our save file, but it starts a new playthrough from the beginning map and begins the post-game. First though, I'd like to reflect and share my thoughts on the story. I think the story is great, and one of Nippon Ichi Software's best in storytelling. To recap, Zeta lost everything due to Pram writing of a Sacred Tome. This led to him needing to regain his body, empowered by making Neverworlds to rule in all of these humorous and tense moments. There's a love tale where it only took Salome dying to realize that she meant something to Zeta, and he needed to bring her back to life. The lightheartedness mixed with mature dark themes blend amazingly and depict what I love this game for. Zeta is a very memorable character. While you might not remember the story after a few years, Zeta will always stand out in players' minds as a badass freaking overlord from Makai Kingdom. In all, I'd say Makai Kingdom offers one of the best stories for a tactical RPG I've ever played through. While the story is fun and engaging in the way of meeting new overlords, it allows you to create netherworlds in their name, and I felt like as I progressed through the game, I was helping Zeta regain his power and get stronger. There isn't much I can say negative about the story, but I have a few things and will bring them up, as this is an analysis and retrospective, and while I do love the story, I can't help but point out this game seems to have a lot less cutscenes than other Nippon Ichi games. Compared to Phantom Brave and Disgaea, both games that came out before Makai Kingdom and influenced the making of Makai Kingdom, have around 4 to 5 hours of cutscenes for the main story, while Makai Kingdom comes in just over 2 hours. There were times where I would clear like 4 or 5 maps before getting another story cutscene, and I definitely think there should have been more in between cutscenes. Well, it does make it so clearing maps is fast and you get a lot of gameplay, there's no denying that. You have an option before cutscenes to skip them, so maybe it's asking too much, but I feel that this game could have used more cutscenes to get the characters stuck into the players' minds and hearts. I really wished it was longer, as my playthrough ended around 15 hours, but the product we did receive in the story is, in my opinion, an amazing one, and very much worth playing through and experiencing if you like these types of games. Also, another thing to point out is, games like Phantom Brave have a lot more cutscenes where things are happening. A lot of the cutscenes in Makai Kingdom don't really offer much movement other than camera and just a character or two. The beginning of the game was very nice, with a nice cutscene of Zeta walking in and meeting Raiden, and we also get something like that at the end, but we don't see any cutscenes like this in between those two, which is disappointing. But I can only guess as I move on to new sections of a retrospective, it was probably the sales that influenced this. While the game did get good reviews overall, with most of what I found ranking the game from a 7 to upwards of an 8, in my opinion I'd rate it an 8 or 9, it was really good. Disgaea's reviews were a bit higher, and while I couldn't find any source of what sales were like for Makai Kingdom at release, I can only guess from what we have today. The game is almost forgotten in gaming, and very few people really talk about this game, or I don't think even maybe play it in modern time. As I'm making this in the year 2020, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if there's only a few people who have played it so far during this year. While the game has a great story and free movement system, Makai Kingdom would be a lot harder to market across to first-time players of the games like this when compared to the Disgaea series. While I do know a lot of Disgaea fans have played this game, or at least know of it, very few people outside of Disgaea fans really do. It makes sense for them not to pour out extra effort on a game that would have been very niche and not appeal to the average Chad gamer bro. But it leaves this game feeling a little, honestly, a lot unpolished when compared to the other titles. For example, when you go to your characters in the menu, it's a beautiful black screen, not very visual appealing, and all while the Disgaea series and Phantom Brave both have pretty good UIs that are very clean compared to Makai Kingdom's. Makai Kingdom also doesn't have a way to really sort items, so your items get lost quite a bit, and they're sorted sort of randomly too, which is fucked. I do remember this game being pretty hard when I was young, and I couldn't get into it as easily as the Disgaea series. In the Disgaea series, when you do get stuck, you can grind out some of the previous maps to go forward. In this game, it seems like you can do a lot of grinding, but maybe not even really feel like you're making much progress. I remember it probably took me a few weeks to get through the game when I was younger, but I got through the game in just about 3 days as a 17-year-old who had to work on those days as well. So while the game does have flaws, I want to jump to some positives. This game offers a great selection of characters, which each character having tiers of classes with better stats that they unlock as you get a character of that class leveled up. The reincarnation system works pretty close to Disgaea in the way your characters store levels and they get stat bonuses, but you need to confine them to an item in order to get them back. They keep their old skills though, so you can do something like use the carrot class, so you get a 30% XP bonus, then reincarnate into something else to have an XP bonus on that class. I did this with my sword master. You can make a mage turn into a warrior, so you can have a warrior who can cast spells and shit. You know, the combinations are endless. You can really make a lot of different diverse choices with this when making your team. And when combined with the choices of weapons and vehicles, you have great reasons to play again and again, as even though I beat the game, I still didn't use every class or weapon, and there's still a lot to learn about the game. Total, the game has 32 different weapons, which gives you a lot of different options for a tactical turn-based RPG. There's everything from swords, spears, guns, bazookas, books and staff, even a UFO which lets you steal items and has a damage and move called Probe. The amount of personality and options in the weapon selection is amazing, and while Disgaea series combines most classes into a general class like gun or book, Makai Kingdom doesn't care and throws 32 weapons at you to do whatever you want with. With a story done though, the game isn't anywhere near over. As most Nippon Ichi games, this game offers a pretty good post-game, which I didn't get all the way through yet, as it's going to take me a long time to do so, and I'd like to do it when I feel like it. Not rush through it to get this video out and make the game feel like a drag for me. But I do want to go over some of the post-game, as I did go through quite a bit of it, and I got to 27 hours. So to start, you have to get through the story mode again. This time you can skip you'll probably want to skip most of the cutscenes. I need to get to map 9-9, the must-have map for early grinding levels and mana. This took about 2 hours to get through, and seeing as I got through the game for the first time in 15 hours, it didn't take too long, but it kind of feels like a real drag when you only want to get to a certain part of a game like I did. Games like Disgaea 5 have the post-game a part of the same playthrough, so this feels very outdated in game design, or maybe could be seen as a way for only hardcore players of the game to be able to truly master and complete the game. You can unlock different characters from the Disgaea series, Phantom Brave, even Nippon Ichi's favorite character, Asagi. This adds a lot of value to these games, and I love getting through the post games. I got through the fights with Flan, Etna, Laharl, and we're all pretty challenging. I need to level up a lot in between each fight and do certain tricks to get by. I'll go over one with you. So one way is you gotta create a food dungeon. If you make a wish with a character by using their mana, you can create dungeons. If you equip them with just a food item, it creates a food dungeon. This puts the enemies in a 3x3 grid. You can then get good levels by working the game's mechanics. Now at a certain point though, you won't be able to do it. Your character will have leveled up too much and you won't have enough mana to create a dungeon. This is what I had to do on January 10th. 2020. So remember the box guys, mimics, good, because you need 4 of them if you want this to go efficiently. Now you need them all to equip the box and level their box skill up to 7. How do you do this? You attack with a box. How fast do they gain weapon skills? About 1/115th per fucking attack at level 0. and it scales up with the levels. So I would have to go to stage 3-3 and unleash a fucking assault on the building with 4 mimics for over 100 turns. I did this for about 2 hours I think, and had to speed up on my emulator to skip animations, thank god. So I saved a lot of time, but this is an example of a type of stuff you gotta do if you want to master Makai Kingdom. Now you can start up a map, summon the 4 mimics, summon a character that you want the mana, and then summon 3 of your highest level facilities. When facilities are destroyed, they give more mana than enemies do, and the mimics use their 3rd ability, Phantom Force, to attack Zeta. Doing this causes the mana multiplier on the map to rise. Somehow after 6 turns or 20 attacks you have a 700 bonus or something, then it goes up to a 5000% bonus due to some insane fucking reason, and boom, 89k mana off 300 levels. There's a lot of stuff like this, and while I do really love it and I'm glad you can grind and manipulate the game to become OP very fast, I don't have that much time. I got a job and a kid on the way, there's things I need to get to, other games I need to fucking play, and I'm not getting any younger. The fact that there are ways to get to those high levels is great. This is the way you can beat the stage where Salome and Alex fight, and you can unlock both of them this way. There are also other endings for the game. One with Pram, if you kill 60 ally units, then you get a special ending with her at the end of the game. You can challenge Zeta, you can unlock Laharl. If you have Laharl as the leader of your party while you challenge Zeta, he'll actually kill Zeta and cause the game to end. While this is cool, it's disappointing that Valvolga and Babylon get reduced to humanoid versions of themselves. While cool, isn't as cool as Giant Dragon or Huge Boss, but oh well. I unlocked Castile from Phantom Brave, Laharl, Flan, and Etna from Disgaea 1, as well as a vehicle that's like a power suit. Pretty cool, and took me about an extra 13 hours to get through. The only thing that makes it such a grind is the fact that you need about 4 or 5 different playthroughs to unlock some characters, as some characters cause an ending to that playthrough, causing you to restart, grind through the campaign maps until you get to the next character that you want to unlock. While I don't like this, it's one of the things that separates people like me who have beat Makai Kingdom from the ones who have mastered the game. Maybe one of these days I'll get my other characters and get top tier equipment and all that, but for now I'd like to move on. In total though, I'd say the post game is pretty good, only held back by the learning curve. If I didn't have the internet, I would have needed a strategy guide or something, as things like the Mimic Mana bonus aren't explained in game. There's a lot that needs to be tested and experimented with, making the game a much more difficult game in my opinion when compared to the Disgaea series. It is definitely one of the best post games in gaming though, and a reason I wish more people would try this game. I know a lot of people who have played Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest and they love those type of games, and they complain that they wish the games were longer or they wish there was a post game. Makai Kingdom offers that, same with the Disgaea series, and much more, with the overlords you met throughout the story now being unlockable as well as beloved characters from other titles. It's a pretty good reward for getting through the campaign and playing an extra bit. Now I'd like to move on to sound design and music in the game, as I think it's quite good. You've been hearing it throughout the video, and I think the soundtrack does a great job at immersing you in the world and cutscenes. It has its own unique sound that I really can't compare to much other than Disgaea, but is very different from Disgaea's. The soundtrack can be very fast paced to create a tense feeling when fighting bosses or hard enemies. I really like how it has a lot of variety throughout the playthrough too, as I didn't really get sick of many of the songs. Here are a few examples of great songs from the soundtrack. It has a very nice 2005 charm to it, and while it doesn't really sound outdated, I can tell it was made around that time. Well, maybe that's because it was, but you get the point. The OST for Makai Kingdom is one of my favorites in gaming still, and remains very underrated in my opinion. Now I want to get into what I wanted to say about the hub world. Now the hub world in this game is you can place your characters, items, facilities, vehicles onto your map and place them as you please, throw them around, do whatever. You can do lots of shit like run around, smacking bitches, driving vehicles around. There's everything you want in a hub world. I think they are very underrated in gaming, and hub worlds from games like Spyro and Disgaea have really stood out to me before and given me nostalgia, but this one fucking takes both of them, ties them to a railroad track, and runs over them. As the amount of things you can do in the hub world of Makai Kingdom is insane. Not many games allow you to arrange your characters or buildings like this, and can lead to not only an immersive time when healing up between maps, but doesn't make you feel like you're alone or something while you're there. If you want, you can summon an army of carrot men to stand guard and keep you company. It's truly amazing how this is all set up. Talking to the characters throughout the story gives random dialogue on what they're thinking, and it changes, as well as being able to choose any character to run around as is great. I love the fact that this game allows you to pick whatever character or class you want as your main character really. It doesn't lock you into having to play as a certain character, and that's pretty amazing. Makes the games really stand out when compared to others. Sure, you play as Zeta the Book, controlling an army of 8, but you don't use him to fight. You use the guys who started at nothing from level 1 that you leveled up as you gain more classes and power to progress, and more things start popping up in your hub world. The only downside to this is that if a character is killed in battle, they are removed from the hub world and required to be summoned again once revived by talking to Zeta. It'd be a lot easier if there was, say, a tombstone there or something, but I'm guessing this is due to you being able to smack bitches to 0 HP yourself. But I ended up creating characters I wouldn't use in battle to fill up my hub world up just a bit, but another problem is that you can only summon 4 facilities. Why this is, I'm not sure. It just kinda sucks, as there's over a dozen facilities to unlock, and would make a much better reason to unlock them if you could put them all onto your hub world. The minor limitations hold it back from being perfect, but it is still much better than mostly any other fucking tactical RPG I've played. In general, the hub world in this game fucking rocks. Now I wanted to go into a few things before I give my closing thoughts for the game. First is the horrendous inventory system I'll never forgive. Never in my life have I seen an inventory so unorganized. You think Disgaea is bad? Whew, you think it's hard to manage? Try Makai Kingdom, because fuck your OCD. Things get put in randomly. So if I unequipped items for my character, instead of appearing at the bottom of the list, they'll be dispersed throughout your entire inventory. So once you got a few hundred or a few thousand, makes it quite hard and time consuming to find fuck all. Also, while the game does offer a lot of post-game content and things to do, getting to these things is probably really hard without help from guides, and I wish they could have found a way to explain more post-game mechanics. For example, even though the shop trader is a character you need for items, at level 80 she caps out, and you stop getting higher tier items. However, if you get a professor to level 300 or higher, you unlock higher tiers of items all of a sudden, something that is never talked about or mentioned anywhere in game. While it would be hard for newcomers to games like this to complete the post game, there are guides and a couple old videos to help get you through it. I really like the facility and vehicle system and really wish they were used again in games. But that leads to the future of Makai Kingdom, or if there is one. At this point of time, Nippon Ichi Software isn't exactly making a bunch of money, and talk of shutting down has been rumored throughout the past few years, unfortunately. While I'd love to see a remaster or sequel to Makai Kingdom, I don't think we'll ever get one due to how long it's already been, and even though they have been porting some of the games to PC and consoles like the Nintendo Switch, they've been ignoring their older games, and I can't really blame them. It is a masterpiece in many ways, and a tragedy in others, but is still really good when it comes down to it. Yet it will most likely be forgotten with time as people move on to new games and worlds. This is what I hope this video does prevent. I started making this as I wanted to make a retrospective or analysis on this game, as there's some of my favorite type of videos to watch and no one has really done this yet for Makai Kingdom, so I can't just let that slip. I asked people on the Disgaea Reddit about their opinions on Makai Kingdom, and luckily 2 people actually responded, and I wanted to share what they had to say, as they both had great. First, Deej Ketchra, sorry if I mispronounced, Makai Kingdom, favorite game in the whole Nippon Ichi Software universe. In my paragraphs below, I'll compare it to the Disgaea series and Phantom Brave, as those are the 2 closest cousins of Makai Kingdom. First of all, the game contains very huge varieties of weapon types, only beaten by Phantom Brave, with respective weapon mastery per type. For example, there's sword type with sword mastery, katana type and katana mastery, gun type and gun mastery. In Disgaea, swords and katana types are combined into one. The same with gun, flamethrower, and Gatling types. Phantom Brave, on the other hand, has no weapon mastery but skill style mastery instead. From those 3 weaponization styles, I like Makai Kingdoms the best, followed by Phantom Brave. Then the no character party. Personally, I like it when a game doesn't force the player to use a specific character. Disgaea 1 comes in tie, as the endings doesn't need any main characters at all. Disgaea 5 comes as third because of Asagi. In Disgaea 5, players are forced to level specific Asagi to level 500 to unlock generic Asagi. Other than that, the only things locked behind main character is skill animations. However, at Makai Kingdom, no main characters are needed at all. More than that, you can't unlock any of them until post-game. Phantom Brave is the worst offender of this because players are stuck with Morona. Last but not least, on how to complete the collectibles, to be honest, Makai Kingdom is the loser here and Disgaea 5 is the winner. Disgaea 5, all things can be attained with only a single playthrough. Phantom Brave only needs 2 or 3 playthroughs for it. Makai Kingdom, around 1 playthrough per character. In conclusion, 1 has many varied. 2 doesn't force players to use specific characters. 3 not too many useless or repetition. The second response I got was from the Gallifreyan, and they said, I played it when it came out and remembered it being awesome. I thought the free movement was really cool, and that overall this game was way cooler than Phantom Brave, which used the same free movement mechanic. I remember the story being fine. I'm not really into the story on these NIS games, but I remember liking Zeta quite a lot. I don't remember too much. It's been quite a long time since I played it. Firstly, I agree with her thoughts on the weapons and how great it is. It beats Phantom Brave's weapons and Disgaea's weapon system, which I also agree with, because Makai Kingdom does fucking top it. It has a UFO. Then, no main character party is a great thing. While we play with Zeta and have him with us, we are the fighters and the army. So making a character after yourself or making a character of whatever type of army you want is doable, and how it's done. The game doesn't force you to level up any certain characters. And the post game for Makai Kingdom, I agree, is a lot more grindy than Disgaea 5. Disgaea 5 definitely did master a system for collecting stuff, as you can even see what type of items or what things you need to unlock. Makai Kingdom offers nothing of a sort, but still remains as an overall solid game for some people, or a favorite in their minds from this era of gaming. Thank you for both of them to responding to the thread and giving me this information. It helps us get an outside point of view other than my own and see what other people thought about the game, and their own opinions on Makai Kingdom and the impressions it left. This game is a part of my childhood. Along with the Disgaea series and others alike, it stands out as one of the games I like the most to this day, and even with dated graphics, the systems are intact and is still an amazing brain worker as it was when I was younger. If you haven't played Makai Kingdom, I hope you will after watching this video, and if you have played it, let me know your thoughts on the game and what you thought of the video. I put a lot of work in this project and it's taken me a couple weeks to complete now, so if you appreciate the video or want to see more or want to support me, the best thing you can do is like the video, subscribe to my channel, comment, and share the video in gaming communities or with people that you think would like to see a video like this. As I know many people don't like longer videos, I do, as I see them more as like movies or documentaries on game. Either way, I hope you enjoyed my retrospective on Makai Kingdom's Chronicles of a Sacred Tome for PlayStation 2. If you'd like to leave any feedback, I'm very open to it and appreciate it a lot, as that will probably help me make these videos better, and that's just better for everyone, and I will thank you for it. I hope I'll put in enough work to actually get more of these out with time, but until then, I hope you all have a good one. I'm Cool Kid Croc, and it was a pleasure sharing one of my favorite games with you. Peace.
You'll pay for this, you will! I won't stand for your blatantly anti-vegetable policies!